It was late afternoon in a small, dusty American town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's business and where silence spoke louder than words. The sun hung low, painting long shadows across the cracked pavement outside a bar called Iron Horse Roadhouse. Dozens of motorcycles were parked in a row, chrome glinting in the fading light. Inside, the air smelled of leather, gasoline, and whiskey. A group of bikers sat around, laughing loudly. Their leader, a burly man named Rex, towered over them all. Tattoos covered his arms, and his presence alone commanded respect. Then, the laughter died down. The door creaked open. A tall man stepped in quietly, slow, deliberate, almost graceful. Steven Seagal. He wore a black jacket, dark sunglasses, and carried the kind of silence that made people take notice. His movements were heavy, careful, like every step hurt a little. He walked straight to the counter and ordered a tea. Not a beer, not a shot, just tea. That alone caught the biker's attention. A man like that in a place like this? He stood out. As he reached into his pocket, the sleeve of his jacket shifted slightly, revealing dark bruises on his forearm. Not small ones, deep purple marks that looked fresh, Rex noticed first. His eyes narrowed. He'd seen plenty of fights in his life, but those weren't bar fight bruises. Those were the kind of marks that came from someone being targeted. The bar went quiet. A jukebox hummed faintly in the background. Rex leaned over to one of his guys. "You see that?" he muttered. The biker nodded slowly. Yes, somebody did a number on him. Seagal didn't say a word. He just sipped his tea, staring out the window like the world outside didn't deserve his attention. There was something peaceful yet dangerous about him, like a storm waiting for the right moment to strike. And that's when Rex, the toughest man in town, made a decision that would change everything. What Rex did next would shake the entire town. Rex couldn't shake the image of those bruises. He'd seen a lot in his life. Broken bones, bar fights, even gunshot wounds. But there was something about this quiet stranger that unsettled him. It wasn't fear. It was respect. The man didn't act like a victim. He didn't complain. He didn't even flinch when people stared. He just sat there calm and steady, sipping his tea like nothing in the world could touch him. Rex's instincts started to buzz, that sixth sense every fighter has when something doesn't add up. He stood towering over his table and walked across the room. The floorboards creaked beneath his boots. The other bikers fell silent, eyes darting between Rex and the stranger. Rex stopped beside Seagal's table. "Rough day, old man?" he asked, voice deep and gravelly. For a moment, Seagal didn't answer. Then slowly he turned his head. Behind the sunglasses, Rex could almost feel the man's gaze. Calm, controlled, unshaken. "Something like that," Seagal replied quietly. His voice was low but carried weight, the kind of tone that made people listen. Rex smirked slightly. "You don't look like the type who loses a fight." Seagal lifted his teacup, his hand steady despite the bruises. "Sometimes fighting isn't about winning," he said. "Sometimes it's about standing for something." The room stayed silent. The jukebox in the corner clicked to the next song, but no one noticed. Everyone's focus was locked on the two men, the biker leader and the mysterious stranger. Rex tilted his head, studying him closer. "Those bruises? Somebody did that to you on purpose, didn't they?" Seagal didn't answer. He simply gave a faint smile and looked back at the window. But in that silence, Rex got his answer. He'd been around long enough to recognize pain, not just physical but moral. The kind that came from doing the right thing and paying the price for it. Rex took a slow breath. "You live around here?" Seagal shook his head. "Just passing through." The rest of the gang watched in silence, half expecting a fight, half expecting a story. The tension was thick enough to slice with a knife. Rex leaned forward slightly, his tone softening. "You didn't deserve that. Whoever did it, they picked the wrong man." Seagal finally looked at him again, his expression unreadable. "Maybe," he said. "But sometimes, people need to be reminded what right and wrong really mean." Those words hung in the air like a sermon. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. Rex straightened up. He didn't know who this man really was yet, but one thing was clear. He wasn't just some traveler. There was power under that calm surface, like a tiger sleeping under a blanket. He turned to his men. "Get the man another drink." The bartender hesitated. He ordered tea," Rex grinned faintly. Then pour him the best tea we've got." A few of the bikers chuckled quietly. The tension began to ease, but the curiosity only grew. As Seagal lifted the fresh cup, one of the bikers, a younger guy named Dale, couldn't resist asking, "Mister, what happened to you?" Seagal's hand paused midair. For a long time he said nothing. The entire bar waited. Finally he placed the cup down and said softly, "Some men think the badge gives them power. It doesn't, it only shows who they really are." Rex's jaw tightened. "Cops?" Seagal gave a slight nod. "Former ones. They're not after justice, just control. I stopped them from hurting someone who couldn't fight back." The words hit like a hammer. The bikers exchanged looks, murmuring under their breath. Even in their rough world, there were lines you didn't cross. Hurting the weak was one of them. Rex clenched his fists, veins showing on his tattooed arms. "You telling me you got jumped for protecting someone?" Seagal nodded once slowly. "Not everyone likes it when you stand up." Rex looked away, the muscle in his jaw twitching. He'd seen corrupt cops before, but to go after a man for defending the innocent, that was beyond low. He turned back to Seagal, voice low but intense. "You did the right thing, and in this town that means something." For the first time, Seagal smiled faintly, not out of pride, but appreciation. "Glad to hear that still matters somewhere." Rex nodded. "It does here." The moment was silent but powerful. Two men from very different worlds sharing the same code: honor, loyalty, respect. Outside, the wind rattled the old bar signs. A storm was coming, both in the sky and in the streets of that small town. Rex turned to his gang. "Boys," he said, "finish your drinks. We've got something to look into." The bikers exchanged glances. They didn't know what he meant, but the look in their leader's eyes told them this wasn't over. And as Rex stepped outside, the engines roared to life, thunder echoing across the town. Inside, Seagal watched them go, a calm smile crossing his bruised face. He knew exactly where they were headed, and what those bikers did next would shake the entire town. Where are you watching this from? And have you ever seen someone stay calm even when disrespected? Drop your city or country in the comments below. The night air outside Iron Horse Roadhouse was cold and electric. Engines rumbled like thunder as Rex and his bikers rolled through the quiet streets of the town. Neon signs flickered and people stepped aside as the gang passed. They were known here. Not for trouble, but for justice in their own rough way. Rex's mind was racing. That stranger, Steven Seagal, there was something different about him. The way he carried himself, the way he spoke. It wasn't just calm. It was controlled power, and those bruises, that wasn't something Rex could ignore. He had seen men beaten before, but not like that. Whoever had done it wanted to send a message. Rex didn't know who they were, but he knew one thing: he was going to find out. They rode toward the edge of town, where an old warehouse stood, half police storage, half forgotten property. Word on the street was that a few crooked officers had been operating there after hours, shaking people down, intimidating anyone who spoke against them. The gang pulled up, engines still idling. Rex dismounted, leather jacket creaking as he moved. "Keep it quiet," he said. "We're not here to start a war yet." They spread out. The warehouse was dimly lit with one flickering bulb above the door. Voices echoed from inside, low, mocking laughter. Rex crept closer and peeked through a cracked window. 3 men in uniform were sitting around a table drinking. One of them, tall, heavy-set, with a smug grin, and was showing something on his phone. Rex's blood boiled when he saw it. It was Seagal's face, beaten and bruised. One of the cops laughed. "That guy thought he could tell us how to do our job. Should have stayed quiet," the others chuckled. "You think he learned his lesson?" "Oh, he learned," the tall one sneered. "No one talks back to me." Rex's hand curled into a fist. These weren't officers, and they were bullies with badges. He turned to his men. "They're the ones," he whispered. Dale, the youngest biker, frowned. "What do we do?" Rex's eyes narrowed. "We make them answer." They burst through the door. The room froze. Bottles clattered to the floor as the bikers stormed in, leather and metal gleaming under the yellow light. "What the hell?" one cop started, reaching for his gun. Rex slammed his hand down on the table, sending it crashing sideways. "Don't," he growled. "Not tonight," the tall officer sneered. "You think you can just walk in here, biker boy? You've got no idea who you're dealing with." Rex leaned forward, his voice cold as ice. Neither do you. For a moment, no one moved. The sound of engines rumbling outside filled the silence. Then Rex grabbed the phone off the table, the one with Seagal's photo on it, and held it up. "You did this?" he asked, voice trembling with anger. The officer smirked. "What if we did?" Rex's jaw clenched. "That man you beat, he didn't deserve it. You're supposed to protect people like him." The officer laughed. "Protect?" He got in the way. "Some people need to learn their place." Rex took a deep breath. His fists were shaking, but he didn't swing. "Not yet." He turned to his men. "Get this on video." The bikers pulled out their phones. The crooked cops froze. They didn't expect this. "You like recording your victims?" Rex said. "Let's see how you like it when the whole town watches you." The tall officer's face went pale. "You don't want to do this, son," Rex smirked. "I already did." He turned to leave, but not before leaning close enough for the cop to hear his final words. "That man you hurt, he's not just anyone. And when you find out who he is, you're gonna wish you'd never laid a hand on him." Meanwhile, back at the Iron Horse Roadhouse, Steven Seagal sat quietly at the same table. The bar was nearly empty now. The bartender approached nervously. "You sure you don't need a doctor?" Seagal smiled faintly. "No, the pain's a reminder." The bartender frowned. "Of what?" "That doing the right thing isn't always easy," Seagal said, sipping his tea. "But it's always worth it." Outside, the rumble of motorcycles echoed in the distance, growing louder. Seagal turned his head slightly, sensing what had happened even before they arrived. He didn't need to ask. He just knew. Rex pushed open the door and walked in, a new fire in his eyes. "You were right," he said. "Some men really do hide behind their badges." Seagal looked up slowly. "And what did you do?" Rex grinned faintly. "Let's just say, they won't be hiding much longer." The two men shared a moment of silent understanding. No handshake. No words of thanks. Just respect. Deep, unspoken respect between warriors who had seen the darkness and still chosen light. Have you ever seen someone stand up against authority, even when it was dangerous? Tell me in the comments, and drop your city or country. I love seeing where you're all watching from morning sunlight spilled across the quiet town, painting everything gold. But the peace didn't last long. By 9 a.m., whispers were already spreading through every diner, shop, and gas station in town. The story of what happened the night before, the bikers confronting crooked cops, had already gone viral on local social media. Someone had leaked the video Rex recorded. It showed everything, the bruises, the confessions, the arrogance of men who thought they were untouchable. And in that same video, sitting quietly in the background at Iron Horse Roadhouse, was the mysterious stranger, the man with the bruises, sipping his tea like nothing happened. Nobody knew his name yet, but they were about to. At the police station, chaos erupted. Phones rang nonstop. Reporters were calling. The town mayor demanded answers. Inside his office, Officer Grady, the tall cop from last night, slammed his fist on the desk. "Who posted that video? This is a setup." His partner, looking pale and nervous, stammered, "It's all over the internet, man. People are saying we jumped some old martial arts guy." Grady frowned. "What martial arts guy?" His partner gulped. "Steven Seagal." Grady froze. The name hit him like a truck. "What did you just say?" "Yeah," the partner continued. "Someone recognized him from the footage, the face, the voice." "It's him, man!" The Hollywood actor, the martial arts master, Steven freaking Seagal. For a moment, Grady didn't move. Then the color drained from his face. He replayed the memory in his mind, the way the man looked at him without fear, the calm, the silence. He thought the guy was just another drifter, but now he realized he'd picked a fight with someone the world respected. "Aw, hell," he muttered. "We're finished." Meanwhile, over at the Iron Horse Roadhouse, Rex walked in again. This time, the atmosphere was completely different. People were whispering, pointing to the corner booth. There sat Steven Seagal, as calm as ever, his bruises beginning to fade. He wasn't hiding, he never was. He simply didn't need attention. Rex approached quietly. You're really him, aren't you?" Seagal gave a small nod. "Last time I checked." Rex chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You could have said something. We would have had your back from the start." Seagal smiled. "You already did." Rex sat down across from him. "The video's everywhere. The whole town knows. Those cops, they're panicking. Seagal didn't react much. Truth has a way of finding the light. Rex leaned back, still trying to take it all in. You know, I've seen every one of your movies. Never thought I'd see the day where the hero walks into my bar and gets jumped by dirty cops. Seagal's expression darkened slightly. That's the problem with power, he said quietly. When people have too much of it, they forget how to respect others. Rex nodded. Well, they picked the wrong man this time. The door swung open and people began to flood in. Locals, reporters, even a few officers who weren't part of the corruption. Everyone wanted to see the man in the video. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. But Seagal stayed silent, composed, the same calm warrior from the night before. One older woman approached, her voice trembling. Mr. Seagal, my grandson, he always talks about you. You stood up for people in your movies. I didn't realize you still did it in real life. Seagal smiled gently. Ma'am, doing the right thing doesn't stop when the cameras turn off. The bar erupted in quiet applause. People weren't cheering for a movie star. They were cheering for a man who practiced what he preached. Rex felt a lump in his throat. In all his years leading bikers, he'd seen tough men, violent men, broken men. But this was different. This was honor. Across town, Officer Grady and his partners were escorted out of the station by internal affairs. Reporters surrounded them like vultures. Officer Grady, is it true you assaulted Steven Seagal? Why did you target him? Do you regret your actions? Grady kept his head down. No more arrogance, no smirk, just shame. The same man who had mocked Seagal hours ago was now facing suspension, maybe even prison. And the video? It had already hit 2 million views online. The headline read, Hollywood legend Steven Seagal humiliated by corrupt cops. Then a biker gang steps in. The story spread like wildfire, across states, across countries. People called it the comeback of true honor. Back in the bar, Rex raised his glass toward Seagal. You know, he said with a grin, I don't think this town will ever forget last night. Seagal chuckled softly. Neither will I. Then he stood up, ready to leave. Thank you, Rex. You reminded me there are still men out there who care about justice. Rex smiled. And you reminded me what real strength looks like. As Seagal walked toward the door, the crowd parted quietly out of respect. No cameras, no cheers. Just silence and the kind reserved for legends. When he stepped outside, sunlight hit his face. The bruises might fade, but the message wouldn't. Power means nothing without respect. Did you ever witness someone stay calm when they had every reason to fight back? Tell me in the comments. And drop your country or city. I love seeing where you're watching from. The next morning, the whole town seemed to stand still. Every TV and every diner, gas station, and bar was tuned to the same channel. Local news replaying the viral video of Steven Seagal and the biker gang. The video had exploded overnight. 10 million views. Countless shares and hashtags flooding social media. Our respect or stand for justice war Seagal moment. For most people, it was just another trending story. But for the people of that small town, it was personal. At Iron Horse Roadhouse, Rex sat with his crew drinking coffee instead of beer for once. The bikers were quiet. They'd seen fights, wars, even death, but this was different. One of them, Dale, looked up from his phone. Boss, he said, they're saying Seagal's going to speak at the town square today. He wants to address everyone. Rex raised an eyebrow. He's still here? Dale nodded. Didn't skip town. He said people need to hear the truth, not just see it online. Rex smirked. Man's got guts. He stood up and tossed a few bills on the counter. Let's go make sure he's safe while he does it. By noon, the town square was packed. Hundreds of people gathered. Families, bikers, reporters, and even a few honest cops who wanted to make things right. Camera drones hovered above. Reporters murmured into microphones. The air buzzed with anticipation. Then from the edge of the crowd, Steven Seagal appeared, dressed in simple black, calm as ever. The bruises on his face had faded, but his eyes carried the same quiet fire. The crowd fell silent as he stepped up to the small wooden podium. No bodyguards, no entourage, just him. He looked around slowly, taking in the faces, some angry, some admiring, some still unsure what to believe. Finally, he spoke. When I came to this town, he began, his deep voice echoing through the speakers. I didn't come as an actor or a fighter or a celebrity. I came as a man. Just a man. He paused, letting the words settle. I've spent my life teaching people about strength, but strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can endure, how calm you can stay when the world tests you. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Rex crossed his arms, nodding quietly. Seagal continued. Last week I stood up for a man being mistreated by people who should have protected him. And for that, I was beaten. A gasp went through the crowd. But here's the truth, Seagal said, his tone firming. Pain doesn't define you. Response does. Those men use their power to hurt others. I could have used mine to destroy them, but instead I chose peace. He looked out across the sea of faces. Because peace is the hardest fight of all. The crowd was silent, no noise, no movement, just listening. Then his voice softened. To every man and woman here, remember this. Real power isn't in your fists, your badge, or your title. It's in your heart. It's in how you treat people who can't fight back. Rex felt his throat tighten. For a man who'd led bikers his whole life, those words hit deeper than any punch ever could. Seagal turned slightly toward him, as if he knew Rex was listening. And to those who stood by me, those who saw injustice and chose courage over fear, I thank you. You reminded me that honor still lives. Rex nodded slowly. The crowd erupted into applause, loud, raw, and emotional. But then through the cheering, a voice shouted, "What about the cops who did it?" Seagal held up his hand for silence. They'll face justice, the right way. Not revenge, justice. He stepped down from the podium, walking straight into the crowd. People parted as he moved through them, shaking hands, nodding, smiling. There was no security, no fear. Just respect. At the back of the crowd, 2 uniformed officers stood, not the corrupt ones, but new faces. They looked ashamed, hats in hand. One of them said quietly to Rex, "We're sorry for what happened." "Not all of us are like them," Rex nodded. "Then prove it. Protect your people and all of them." The officer nodded firmly. "We will." As the event ended, reporters tried to surround Seagal, but he just smiled and waved them off. "No interviews today," he said. "The message is enough." Rex walked over. "You sure know how to talk to a crowd," he said with a grin. Seagal chuckled. "Sometimes the best way to fight is to speak." Rex looked around at people hugging, cheering, some even crying. The town that was divided the night before was now united. "You did more for this place in one day than anyone's done in years," Rex said. Seagal shook his head. "No, Rex, you did. You saw wrong and you acted. That's what makes change." Rex smiled, extending his hand. This time Seagal took it. The handshake was firm, not between celebrity and fan, but between equals. As the sun began to set over the square, Seagal turned toward his bike. Yes, his bike. Rex had one of the gang's mechanics fix up a custom Harley for him. Black, sleek, simple. Seagal swung his leg over it, adjusted his gloves, and looked at Rex one last time. "Take care of your town," he said. Rex nodded. "You too, legend." The engine roared, echoing through the valley as Steven Seagal rode off into the horizon. Not as a movie star, but as a man who had once again shown the world what true strength looks like. If you believe real power is about respect, not violence, type honor in the comments below. And let me know where you're watching from. I read every country and city you mention. A week had passed since Steven Seagal's speech at the town square, but the aftershocks were still shaking every corner of the small community. The once quiet town was now the center of national attention. News vans lined the streets, reporters interviewed locals, and people from neighboring cities were driving in just to see the place where it all happened, where one man's calm courage had exposed corruption and reignited hope. Everywhere you looked, signs read, "Respect, honor, justice." Those 3 words, spoken by Seagal, had become a movement. At the police department, everything had changed. Internal affairs officers filled the building, collecting evidence, reviewing footage, and interviewing witnesses. Officer Grady and his partners, the same men who once swaggered around with unchecked arrogance, now sat in separate holding cells. Their uniforms were gone, replaced by orange jumpsuits and cold stares. When the door opened, Sheriff Daniels stepped in. He was an old-school lawman, known for his integrity. He'd been away on medical leave when all of this started, and now that he was back, he wasn't pulling punches. He looked Grady dead in the eye. "You disgraced this badge," he said quietly. You didn't just hurt a man, you hurt this whole town. Grady swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I didn't know who he was. Daniels slammed his hand on the table. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to know a man's name to treat him with respect. Grady lowered his head. There was no defense left. Meanwhile, outside the station, Rex and his bikers waited. The crowd around them was bigger than ever. Locals, journalists, and supporters holding up phones and signs. When the sheriff stepped outside, cameras flashed. He raised his voice. Those responsible have been suspended, charged, and will face the law, not the streets. Justice will be done the right way. The crowd erupted into applause. Rex folded his arms, satisfied. One of the reporters shouted, Sheriff, what about Steven Seagal? The sheriff smiled faintly. He's gone. Didn't say where. Just said his job here was done. Rex nodded to himself. That sounded exactly like Seagal. A man who never stayed for glory, only for purpose. Later that evening, Rex returned to Iron Horse Roadhouse. The place was packed. Not with bikers this time, but with families, workers, even police officers. A huge TV screen above the bar played the latest news headline. Steven Seagal's message of respect sparks global trend. Clips showed people around the world, from New York to Tokyo, using the hashtag #respect while sharing their own stories of standing up to injustice. Schools were teaching kids about courage and calmness under pressure. Even some police academies had started replaying Seagal's town square speech during training. Dale whistled low. Boss, the man's everywhere. He's on every channel. Rex smiled. That's what happens when the truth hits home. A woman nearby turned and said, You were there, weren't you? With him? Rex nodded. Yeah, what was he like? She asked softly. Rex took a sip of his coffee. Quiet, strong, didn't talk much and didn't have to. You could feel it, she smiled. Men like that are rare. Rex looked around the bar, at his men, at the townsfolk, at the police officers now mingling peacefully with the same bikers they once distrusted. Yeah, he said quietly, but maybe not as rare as we think. Have you ever seen one calm, brave person change an entire situation? Tell me your story in the comments. And don't forget to drop your city or country. I love seeing where all you legends are watching from. A few minutes later, Rex stepped outside to get some air. The night was peaceful again, stars bright, engines silent. He leaned against the railing, staring down the empty road leading out of town. For a moment, he thought he heard the faint sound of a motorcycle engine in the distance. Smooth, steady, familiar. He smiled. Ride safe, old man, he muttered. Then out of habit, he reached into his jacket pocket. There was a folded note, one that Seagal had left for him on the bar before leaving. Rex unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was neat, simple. You don't need fame to make a difference. You just need courage to do what's right, even when nobody's watching. Steve and Rex read it twice, then tucked it back into his jacket. Those words weren't just advice, and they were a creed. He turned toward the bar windows and saw his bikers laughing inside, the townsfolk smiling, and for the first time in a long time, peace this town had been broken, divided by fear and corruption. But now, because of one man's calm defiance, it was healing, and Rex knew. This was just the beginning. The next morning, the mayor officially announced Respect Day, a yearly event to honor integrity, unity, and courage. They even unveiled a small bronze plaque outside the bar, in honor of Steven Seagal, who reminded us that true power lies in restraint, and real justice begins with respect. People took photos, left flowers, and shook hands, and though Seagal was miles away by then, his spirit lingered. In every kind gesture, every fair decision, every act of courage that followed. As Rex revved his bike later that day, Dale called out, "Where to, boss?" Rex grinned. "Doesn't matter. Just riding." And with that, the roar of engines filled the air again, not as a symbol of rebellion this time, but of freedom. The same freedom that one man had fought for, not with fists or guns, but with calm, honor, and truth. If you believe one person can change the world with respect, type respect in the comments and share this story so more people hear it. Months had passed since the day Steven Seagal quietly rode out of that small town, but his message, respect, honor, justice, hadn't gone with him. It had spread. What started as a simple act of courage in a forgotten corner of America had ignited something far bigger, a movement, In cities around the world, murals appeared on walls and Seagal's silhouette beside the words, "Be calm, be strong, be just." Police departments began inviting community leaders to speak about reform. Schools organized Respect Week, where kids learned that real strength isn't about fighting. It's about staying calm when others lose control. Even the president mentioned Seagal's story in a speech about equality, saying, "Sometimes the most powerful act isn't raising your fist, it's keeping your composure." The world was waking up, and in the middle of it all, Rex, the once feared biker gang leader, had become a quiet ambassador of that same message. At the Iron Horse Roadhouse, things were different now. The gang still rode, but they'd turned their reputation around. They helped clean up parks, delivered food to struggling families, and even escorted local school buses to keep kids safe. Reporters called them the Respect Riders. Rex didn't care about the fame. He just remembered that night. The bruised man who never raised his voice, never threw a punch but somehow shook an entire system. One afternoon, while polishing his bike, Dale came rushing in with a tablet. "Boss, you've got to see this." Rex wiped his hands and leaned over. On the screen was a news broadcast from Japan. Steven Seagal was there, standing at a martial arts academy. Addressing a crowd of young fighters, the reporter said, "He's been teaching self-defense and discipline. But more than that, he's spreading his message of respect around the world." Seagal spoke calmly to the students. "Power is not what you hold in your hands. It's what you hold in your heart." The entire crowd bowed in silence. Rex couldn't help but smile. "Still at it," he murmured. Dale nodded. "Man like him? He'll never stop." A few days later, an envelope arrived at the roadhouse. No return address, just Rex's name written in the same sharp handwriting as before. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single photo. Seagal standing beside a group of kids holding a banner that read "Respect." On the back, a short message, "Keep the fire alive. The world still needs men who ride with purpose." SS Rex stared at it for a long time, the noise of the bar fading into silence around him. Then he folded the note, slid it into his wallet, and stood up. He walked outside, sunlight glinting off his bike, and called out to his crew. "Saddle up, boys. We've got work to do." Dale frowned. "Where to this time?" Rex grinned. "Wherever respect's running low." Engines roared to life, not out of anger or rebellion this time, but pride. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. As they rode through town, people waved. Kids pointed and smiled. Even the police saluted them as they passed. The same town that once feared them now trusted them, because one man's calm courage had rewritten the story. And somewhere out there, on a quiet highway far away, Steven Seagal rode his own path, visor down, wind in his hair, and peace in his heart. He didn't need cameras or applause. He knew the truth. Real heroes don't chase attention. They create change. If you believe respect is stronger than violence, type respect in the comments right now. And tell me, what country or city are you watching from? Let's show the world that real strength comes from calm, honor, and justice. The screen fades out, engines echo in the distance, and one line appears. Sometimes, all it takes is one calm soul to silence a world of chaos.